Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the Abnormal Podcast, episode 2 with Seedat and Bloodhound. How are we doing today, Christian?
Oh, another exciting day to get this podcast going.
Oh yeah, you had pretty decent success on that first episode, and I made that thumbnail in like 20 minutes. I had to find a picture of you looking one direction and me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been pretty happy. We've gotten people to watch and I I feel like that's a tough task, especially because it is a 2-hour video.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people. I was surprised with the amount of people that were watching, and that's really cool. So, obviously, last week we were talking pre The Boys finale. Both of us have watched it now, so we're gonna start off the episode talking about that. Do you want to start, or you want me to start? Because I have a lot to say.
I was gonna say I'm gonna let you take the reins on this one because I know you had a lot to say. You're on Twitter with a lot of people, so
Yeah, I was
you get to
going
have
back
fun with
and
this one.
forth. Here's what I want to start off with. Basically, for me, in a bubble, the episode was good. Like the finale in and of itself, I enjoyed. I didn't have the pacing. I knew was going to be an issue going into it. Like season 5 was bad. Season 4 to me was bad. And the finale of season 5 does not excuse the season as a whole. It doesn't. It Last episode when we were talking about this, I had my doubts going into the finale. I felt like they were just going to completely screw it over. I thought that a lot of the characters had satisfying endings. I knew what was going to happen with Homelander. A lot of people were saying this was probably the safest approach that they could have taken to the ending, the resolution of all the characters. I kind of agree with that. I think this is the most like anti The Boys type of ending. It's the most safe option that they could have gone with. Um,
Yeah.
they definitely took things from the comics, like the way the Butcher cracked his head open with the crowbar, which he's never using the crowbar in the whole series, but they're paying homage to it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I felt in a bubble. It was a good episode. But we have a problem. We have a lot of problems with the way that people were kind of interacting with this as a finale, calling it the worst finale of all time, like going completely overboard and crazy with it. It's not the worst thing ever. People were saying it's as bad as Game of Thrones ending. No, it wasn't. It wasn't as bad as the Stranger Things ending. It wasn't as bad as any of these. It was a safe ending, but it was resolute and it had good resolution for most of the characters. Now, things were obviously paced very badly, as I said. Things were happening very rapidly. For half of the episode, it's just nonstop bang, 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 things are happening. Because they had to wrap up so many characters all at once, right? Oh Father gets killed, basically like boom, it's just done. The Deep gets killed instantly. It's like boom, it's done. And so these characters that All Father or Oh Father hadn't been there for super long, but the Deep is one of those characters where a lot of people wanted to see him get a little bit more punished for the type of character that he was. I thought it was still hilarious when he and
Oh,
he's like, "You want to take responsibility?" And he's like, "No." I thought that was funny. That he in the whole episode he was funny. He walks in and he's like, "Oh, Prophet Bro Hamid," just it had me cackling. It was so funny. But things were definitely rushed in that. But there was this media literacy issue where I feel like people don't watch shows with their eyeballs. They watch it through like hype edits on TikTok and things like that because so many people were wanting Homelander to win, which was never going to happen. It was never going to be the situation where Homelander wins. But a lot of people wanted that, and what I said on Twitter was I think we have a problem where Anthony Starr was too good as the character that people started to root for him in the same way they rooted for Walter White. And so when he lost, people were upset. A lot of people, there were people who were arguing on one side for, well, the character should have had a longer fight sequence. It shouldn't have been as rushed, and I agree with that for the pacing. It was like 2 or 3 minutes, and the way that the writing and power scaling, we talked about power scaling, was put together, it didn't make sense, right? That was one
yeah.
thing. But then there was a whole other side of people who were like, Homelander should have won and destroyed the world. And it's like, that was never going to happen. Um,
No.
a lot of people were complaining about the way that he groveled, which never made sense to me because without his powers, he's a baby. In the first season, he has beef with a literal baby because he is a
Literally.
child and he wants attention. That his whole character is being a man child. He was always going to
Well,
grovel.
I think one of my biggest things with that too was like in the comics, that's very similar to his ending. It was kind of the same thing where like he was just like confused and everything. Obviously, it was a little different sense because he found out the clone was doing all the bad things. But I'm like, that's how his character ended in the comics. It wasn't. This was the least satire episode of the boys they've ever made.
Yeah. Yep. That's it was a lot like just looking at the comics in and of themselves. Obviously, they strayed so much away from the ending. They really replaced the clone with Ryan. That's kind of what happened, where Ryan shows up and then he helps Witcher. But to me, it made sense with the character, and I always felt that that was the way that he was going to go out, which is why I said it was definitely the safest ending approach that they could have gone with. Um, But again, things were just rushed. It was rushed as a result of season 5 not doing anything. There were two things that mattered in the season. It was V1 and the virus. Those were the only two things that mattered. Nothing else played anything to the story really, except like, maybe the scene where you have all the people with the psychics watching the God thing, like the whole God
Yeah.
complex show, and then because that sets up the finale. But realistically, man, they kept it pretty straightforward. I don't understand the outrage. I really don't. But
I think I do, and I'm gonna jump into this. So we talked about in the first episode how I talked about leaks. And there was a lot of leaks leading into this last episode saying, hey, Homelander might actually win. The Deep's not going to die. Like all this
yeah,
stuff was said in these leaks. And I told you, I felt like they're putting these leaks out to be misleading. And going into this episode, I'm watching, I'm like, I was kind of right on that. Like a lot of the stuff that they said was going to happen did not happen.
yeah,
And I think that leads to the outrage. And the people that think this finale was the worst finale ever are probably all Drake fans. But that's neither
yeah.
here nor there.
Yeah, another big thing too. So for me, I didn't watch Gen V, so I wasn't affected by that. It did, and I'm grateful that I didn't because they really played no role, the characters from that. But also too, I wasn't affected by the outside marketing that Amazon did, and a lot of people looked at a couple of posters that were put up by Amazon and they were like, "Oh my God, Homelander's going to destroy the world." Or in the picture with Butcher, where he's by Vought Tower and it's collapsing, they're going to destroy Vought Tower. I was never affected by those because I didn't even see them until
Yeah.
until the episode was about to come out. Then I was seeing them plastered all over, but I didn't go in with the expectations for this season that they were going to do any of that. And I also said something similar. I said a couple of things similar. Number one, they didn't have the budget, and they never really have had the budget to do these like MCU style CGI battles. That was
Yeah.
not going to happen. And I told somebody, people expected Batman v Superman in a show where the soup fights, we only have a couple of big soup fights, and it's mostly in season 3. Realistically, like that's where we get
Yeah.
the most amount of actual fights between superpowered individuals. Otherwise, they really have never had the budget or big fight stuff or sequences. I never expected there to be some big CGI Homelander dominates the world and scorched earth in literal terms. I never expected that. So I didn't have that outside influence from the posters or me. But people were like, oh, Marie is going to fight Homelander. She's not a main character, guys. It's a spinoff. That was never going to happen. It was always going to be Butcher. But the leak
And
about
I feel like
Kimiko was right, though. That she was going to be the one to
that
blast
one,
him.
yeah, that one was right. And that's what this whole show is built off of satire. And that's why, like, when I looked at the posters and everything, I feel like most of the seasons, the poster didn't really actually connect to any of the seasons. I don't know why they thought this was going to be any different.
Yep. And people are trying. So I think that those posters did more damage than anything else for the finale. Just because, and the whole season as a whole, because people expected this to be like every single episode was going to be some massive moment, and it wasn't. And obviously, like I said, season 5 was not good. As a whole, it was bad. There were a couple of good moments, but overwhelmingly the show fell off after season 3. That's how I felt about it. And so getting to this point, I thought they did the best with what they could, just based
Yeah.
on where they were in the story and the fact it definitely should have been more episodes for the season. And Eric Kripke himself said, I believe originally it was supposed to be 12 or 13 episodes, something along those
Oh,
lines. Yeah,
yeah, I
he
haven't
had said
read
that.
that yet, but
Yeah, so
and
it was
we
supposed to
talk.
be more.
Yeah, and like I said, we had that conversation too about the whole episodic things. Like 8 episodes, just most of the times it's not enough to get your full story out, and that's the unfortunate thing about today's industry is they want it done 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because originally that was a big issue with when Netflix was releasing those first big streaming shows. Originally, people were writing stories like because this is television, but they were writing them like movies. And then what would happen was you would have so much extra bloat because they were trying to stretch ideas out into these longer stories. But now it's the opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I enjoyed the ending. I think there is a media literacy problem. I think that people expected things that weren't ever going to happen. I believe that people fell into the rage bait of like, oh well, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be scorched earth, literally. It was never going to
yeah,
be that. I never went in with the expectation that it was going to be that. I'm just happy that there was some resolution for the characters. Obviously, I'm disappointed that Soldier Boy was removed from the finale. I felt that that didn't make
yeah.
any sense, but they wrote themselves into a corner with the fact that they very clearly would have beaten Homelander if he was there without any issue. It wouldn't. And the only part we were talking about this last week, I want to bring it up. The only part that I felt was actually meant to be like a complete satire of just piss poor endings was the Kimiko thing where Frenchie appears in the power of friendship.
Oh,
That to me
yeah.
felt like intentionally making like a joke of something.
Well,
That's
didn't Kripke say there was something intentionally meant to be really bad in the season finale?
I
Wasn't
didn't
that
see it.
something he said? I gotta say I don't have the article with me, obviously, but I thought I read something that he did something that was intentionally meant to be bad, and like you said, that could have been it. And I'll kind of jump into how I felt about the finale.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the finale. They had a lot of great Easter eggs in the finale too, that like unless you heard it from Kripke, you probably wouldn't have known. Like the octopus that kills the deep was
Ambrosia
Ambrosia's
cousin.
cousin.
Yep, yep,
And I'm like, that was great. A lot of people were mad saying that he didn't have character development. This is how I feel about this. In real life, not everybody experiences character development. Some people always just revert back to their old ways, and that's what we got to see with the Deep. So I mean, I was cool with him not having that character development, being like,
yep.
you know what, you're right, Starlight. He was who he was throughout the entire show. There's a brief period when he had that weird cult following where he kind of changed, but he was still the Deep. Like, not everybody develops, unfortunately. I like a lot of the conclusions, like MM finally getting married.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I don't know how I feel about Ryan going with MM, but then I thought back to the beginning season and MM was mentoring younger kids. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Kamiko, I thought it was awesome. She had that dog. I'm like, oh, she got the dog.
Yeah.
Sister Sage. Now, this is one I didn't know until I saw it. But so her reference going to, what was it, Harry Potter World or whatever it was,
Yeah, Harry
Orlando,
Potter.
the
Yep.
she played in the Cursed Child Broadway show, I believe.
Oh, I didn't
She
know
was one
that.
of the actor. Yeah, she was one of the actors in it. So I'm like, that was a good little meta reference. I love when you can throw those in. Now, something I want to talk about. Butcher's ending was perfect.
I agree, and people were hating on it. I didn't understand.
It it was perfect. He looked at Huey like it was his little brother. It was so different from so he was talking a lot of this last 2 seasons was building up on his relationship he had with I forget the guy's name in the show, but it was played by, you know, the act what's his name?
I couldn't tell you.
But the guy who we kept seeing when he was hallucinating in season
Oh,
four.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, I was blanking on that, but they built their relationship up as they were friends. And that was the thing that I think was different between Huey and, Butcher was I never saw them as friends. It was more like Butcher was like that older brother kind of figure to
Yeah.
Huey, I felt like throughout the series. And that's what it ended as. Like, he's like, man, he's like, you really remind me of my brother.
Of Lenny, yeah. Well, then that's the
Yeah.
thing. They had been building that up since the beginning because the point of Huey's character in the show, definitely versus the comics, completely different character. But him in the show, he was always meant to be Lenny. They showed
Yeah.
that from the good seasons. They were showing that he was meant to be the canary in the coal mine. That was the character
Yeah.
that they wrote Huey as. And I understand that there was some separation between the characters over the last couple of seasons where, because in the first three they were always pretty close, like Huey was coming along through that process, just being almost looking at Butcher as a mentor, and then Butcher goes off the rails a bit, and then you have the argument of we need to kill all the soups, but obviously Huey is banging a soup, so that becomes an
Yeah.
issue. There was the episode where they did all the character development in season 5 where they had Black Noir 2 and they had Terror's whole thing. But in that, they showed the humanity again between Butcher and Huey when Butcher is terrified that he's going to die type of deal.
Yeah.
And so that at that point, they're showing Huey and him specifically that Huey realizes there's still humanity left in Butcher. That was the point of that interaction between those two individually. You had a similar thing happen in the finale. With him having the flashback of this is Lenny. That's why he
Yeah.
calls him the canary. That's always
Yeah.
been the case. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Butcher's ending was perfect. Now, the ending I'm going to talk about that I was like, made me cringe was Starlight and Huey's. Not that their ending wasn't cringe, it was the fact that Huey is naming the baby
I
Robin.
didn't mind that. I think people were like, well, it's after his ex. No, it's after a woman that got killed. They weren't exes. She died. And that set in motion the
Yeah,
whole thing.
I don't know. It felt a little weird to me, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. I know some people are like defending it to death, and I'm like, okay, calm down. You can appreciate that, but I'm gonna say I found that a little weird. But yeah, I was really happy with the ending. I liked it. I think most of the characters on there had pretty good endings, except Terror, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Terror. That's why I texted you. I'm like, had you seen it? Because I was pissed. I was pissed that they killed me. Didn't get
Yeah,
to hump Homelander. That's what I wanted. They didn't do it.
yeah.
um,
I was really satisfied with the last episode. Like you said, it doesn't make up for the mistakes they made through season 5. Like you said, we got great moments, but I enjoyed the season finale. I've watched worse season finales. I
yeah,
watched How I Met Your Mother season finale, so I know about disappointing finales.
yeah, and that was rush pacing too. You want to talk about How I Met Your Mother? That was really,
Very
really
much
bad.
so.
I will say, Sister Sage, I didn't necessarily agree with her ending. I felt that they just had to find a way to get rid of her. If you look at it objectively, they used her as test bait for Kimiko, and then she got away scot free after all the shit that she did. I felt like that was kind of, and she got a happy ending. She was
Yeah,
so happy with all of it.
but like we also have some spin-offs coming, so we don't know what's gonna happen in those yet.
I doubt that they'll bring back. Oh, and this is the other thing too. You were talking about Ryan losing his powers. Is there a
Yeah.
possibility that he's going to get his powers back through some sort of V or whatever? And maybe that's to do with Stan Edgar and his surrogate daughter. Maybe that will have
I
something
hope
to do
not.
with it. Well,
Oh,
because they left that ending
oh,
open. They left that part open, which could establish that further of maybe Ryan coming back in some capacity.
I didn't even think about that. Damn, you're cooking.
I know, man. It's just thinking about it because there are loose ties that they left. There are certain
Yeah.
characters that you don't know. They could do something with Kimiko's character. They're obviously going to do the Vought Rising with Soldier Boy, and a lot of people are speculating what's probably going to happen is at the end of that, he's going to be awoken from his pod. That's what the thought
Yeah.
process is going to be. Like the finale is he'll be getting out into the current world versus the like people are saying it's probably he's going to be thinking of all this while he's in the pod in his deep sleep, that he's going through this kind of flashback series.
Yeah, well, I seen something today, I believe, that said he's going to be in The Boys, New Mexico, and I'm like, how is he going to be in that? It's not New Mexico, it's just Mexico,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, Mexico. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But I seen that he was going to be in that, so that's that's probably obviously Vought Rising is like a prequel, so we know kind of how loosely how that's going to end is he's going to get sold out to the Russians, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. We get to see some more Jensen Ackles, and I'm never going to complain about that.
Well, also too, I don't think it's going to be about him getting sold out because that was a separate team with Black Noir and all of those guys,
Oh,
and this is prior to, from what I understand. He was
so
in a
this,
sequel group. Yeah.
well, yeah, because this group never existed in the comics. That I was reading that they said this group never existed in the comics that he's going to be a part of. So this takes place even before he got sold out.
From what I understand, yes, because they don't have the characters that were on the team that they showed in the original series. Because they
Yeah,
showed you it was his girlfriend or whatever. She's not there. The twins, the little midget twins, they're not there. TNT and whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same
I was
team.
about, I was going to say they have some continuity errors if I've ever seen any.
Yeah, no, I believe it is a separate team that's even prior to those other ones. I think this is the
Okay,
origin. It's going to be the origin of Soldier Boy, from my understanding.
okay,
So they'll probably show his father and like him as a kid and all this different stuff and him going through the experiments and they'll explain what had to do with that the spore guy that was down in the basement. They'll have to do with
yeah,
that and where I think that's what they're going to be leaning into, and then into where he
okay.
becomes Soldier Boy for the first time and yeah, yep,
Well, yeah,
that'd be
this
my
it's gonna
understanding.
be interesting. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna watch it because I watch all the superhero stuff that comes out, but I'm not going in with like high expectations. Like, you go in for, the boys made their establishment and, you went in with expectations and season four and season five kind of let you down with those expectations. I wasn't as down on season five as you were. I enjoyed it for the most part. I think it was paced a little weird. Once again, we'll always circle back to the how things are done today. 8 episodes, 10 episodes, just not enough.
Yeah, I feel very largely that the way that they crafted season 5 was that they had written the ending first, and they probably had the ending written for quite a long time. They probably looked at the comics, realized where they wanted to end up with the characters, and they knew they weren't going to do the Black Noir twist, so you have to do something
Yeah.
with that character. The Sister Sage being kind of written out haphazardly, the Deep getting killed, like boom, he's just gone, or Oh Father that was there for one season, then boom, he's just gone. I think what happened is they had that ending in mind, then they wrote the seasons after, at least season 5 they wrote the season after they had come to the conclusion of what they wanted to do. um,
That's one thing too, I think when writers write like that, they always end up writing themselves into circles. I've brought up How I Met Your Mother multiple times now, but they did the same thing. They had the ending written for years
yep.
and they just didn't do it right, and that's why it ended badly. I'll bring up someone that the Russos, obviously not everything they do is perfect, but like when they did the Avengers movies, they did it sequence order. They wrote it from beginning to end. They were
Hmm.
still rewriting the end as they were going. That's a better move, in my opinion, to make because, like you said, you write yourself into a circle at some point. If you have a definitive ending and you don't know how to get there, you have episodes like you have in season five where it's like, okay, where's your pacing? All the stuff like that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend don't start at the end first. I mean, I've done it before and stuff that I've written, but I'm not a famous writer that's putting out TV shows.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd say the same thing because like I used to go do English writing school and things like that when I was at Purdue or whatever. But that's the case is I've done that too, where I've started towards the ending or I have some things wrapped up when I'm writing fiction or whatever, and then trying to get there. The problem is everything in the middle is the meat, right? You can pay off in the end and it can be a good ending like this was, but you ruin season 5 and a lot of people for season 4. You start off at a certain place and you're trying to get to an endpoint, but you haven't road mapped. And when you're talking about the Russos and the Avengers specifically, as they're going, the meat becomes the stories that they're trying to tell. And not just the Russos, but all the individual characters and their arcs. You have to make changes according to that when you have such a large amount of different characters in different movies and stories. And the Infinity Saga was pretty masterfully done. Yes, there are bad movies and things like that, but you got to a great resolution. And then,
Yeah,
as we talked about last week, after that, it kind of went off the rails. But they had that planned for a long period of
yeah,
time. And the thing is, with the first Avengers movie, they already knew the end goal was Thanos. We have the
yeah,
villain. We know where we're going with this. But everything else you leave open to interpretation or to be malleable. You can change things throughout the story, tweak them to get to a point that's satisfying, but it's already been
yeah,
established. You know where you're going.
yeah.
Yeah, so they had a roadmap for it. But yeah, uh, I enjoyed the finale. I
Yep.
I still think Eric Kripke is a terrorist for what he the way he wrote Soldier Boy. I still think that again with Noir and him being killed, the second Noir when they actually established his character and gave him a cool little arc, and then they just had Deep strangle him when he could fly, and it made no sense to me. Stuff like that. That's just
Yeah, that dude had the shortest character arc I've ever seen in my life.
and it was one of the well written parts of season 5 was that whole
Yeah.
interaction of him trying to be like a play an actor.
I think he's had a fully established character arc for about 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah, and then they got rid of him.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay, now we can jump into our next topic, something we've been holding off on because someone's not good at watching TV anymore, and that's
Yeah.
me. But we're gonna jump into Invincible since I had finally finished it, and talking about something that has a definitive ending already. Invincible, they have an ending. They've been following the comics.
Yes.
They've done gender swapping a lot, but for the most part, they have very much stuck to what the comics have done.
Well, and
And
this
they've,
you go ahead, sorry.
sorry, you could say they've done it masterfully so far too.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say this is the power of having the creator of the original comics being the lead for the show, the showrunner. This is the
Yeah,
power of doing that. Another thing that you could talk about is Oda for the One Piece live action adaptation on Netflix because he is the creator. This is the point. When you have an adaptation, we talked about this last week. When you have an adaptation, you need people that are loyal to whether it's the actors, the director, the showrunner, the writers, people who are loyal to the source material. And having somebody on who created the comic makes that really, really easy. And the thing is,
oh yeah,
they've changed things from the comics, but they've done so in a way that makes the pacing of the show better. Because at this point, Nolan and Debbie are already fucking on the ship. Like in the comics, they are immediately
yeah,
smashing. They're back. But they're drawing it out because of how she was affected as a character, which makes more sense. There are some
yeah,
pitfalls with it, like the Hell episode, because that wasn't in the original comics. It was cut, and reasonably so, because of
yeah,
where it was placed during the Invincible War arc, but also, too, just because it didn't really connect to anything in the story at that
yeah.
time. You had already gotten rid of Damien Darkblood. He was gone. Nobody had been thinking about him since season 1. And now we're gonna have an episode where Mark shows up and defeats the only person. No, none of these people can defeat the lava woman. And then Mark just
Oh
shows
yeah.
up, punches her, boom, done. Solve the
They're like,
problem. Yeah, that's the power of having somebody who is the creator of the comic there to make some actual good changes for the characters to write it in a more understanding and serious way. And the thing is, he's pretty dog shit at writing female characters, but they've given the female characters a better arc now. That's because
yeah,
he has some oversight instead of him just writing it directly into the comics. But a lot of people, Adam Eve didn't really have much of an arc. Now she does. Debbie wasn't very independent as a character. Now she is. But you can make those changes that are still faithful to the adaptation.
yeah.
Um,
And that's one thing I know we've had this conversation many times. Like, you're allowed to make changes if it makes for the better. We've briefly talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, those were characters that people really didn't care about, and they took them, put them in a movie. But the way they adapted it, the way they made them I would say relatable.
Yeah.
Like people love that. And that's something Invincible has done very good is they've taken these characters and they haven't changed. Like I said, there's some gender swapping. I think there's some race swapping as
Yeah.
well.
Amber's character
They,
especially. Yeah.
yeah, they've done that to the point where it doesn't mess with the overall story. It's not something that like takes away from the story. When you do it and it takes away from the story, that's where it becomes the issue. Invincible has done so good with it. I've loved Invincible so far. Like like you said, I've never read the comics. You said Adam Eve didn't have much of like a story in the comics, an arc. She's one of my favorite characters on the show.
Yep.
Like I love Adam Eve on the show. So that's awesome to hear. Eventually I'll get to reading those comics one day, but right now all I have is the show. I'll look up stuff, as you know, for my hatred for Oliver.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys will hear about that eventually when we get more seasons. I hate Oliver.
Yeah, where his
Hate
character
him.
ends up going. Yeah. Um, and the thing about Invincible is that the story is, even though it starts off sort of as a parody, obviously with the Earth's mightiest heroes and them getting
Yeah.
slaughtered, like the Justice League getting slaughtered by Superman, evil Superman. Oh no! But because there's actual character writing and there is a genuinely good story, we've gotten to this point where even though every single season there is one criticism, it's the animation. It always has been, it probably always will be, that people come, and to be fair, people are right because the animation in certain parts is horrible. For a show that's produced by Amazon, it is terrible. There's when
Yeah.
Oliver is fighting the dragon guy, it's Mr. Lee, right? There's a still
Yeah.
image of it just going as a PNG zooming in. It's terrible. It's horrible animation, but the story is so good that people are willing to still watch, and even though people will complain about it, they still love the show. That's insane because not many shows can pull that off where you have a story. They're talking about an anime. One Punch Man was beautifully animated in its first season. They swapped to a different studio. It's the worst animated anime out right now. Nobody is watching it. Versus Invincible, where the animation season one wasn't the best, but it's better than anything that they've had, and the animation has gone downhill. But people are still super invested in the story because it's that good. It's very telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I'm not someone that really focuses on stuff like that. If you look at our CGI now, our worst CGI now is better than it was 20 years ago, but for some reason still not better than the Pirates of the Caribbean. We're not going to get go into that. But anywho, animation, like I don't look at that as a deal breaker for me. Like you said, if it's a bad story, bad animation, yeah, it's going to bother me.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed a lot of the animation stuff, but usually when I'm watching shows, I'm like half focused, so that could be part of it as well. It's the story that always captivates me, and the Invincible story has been great so
Yeah.
far. I I semi know where it's heading because said, if I say that word again, if I look at stuff online, like I'll look it up, I'll be like, okay, let me read this, see what happens, kind of here, enough to give me like an idea of where the show's going.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations about that because, like I told you, I looked up Oliver. I looked up a few of the other characters, just kind of see where the arc's going. So I have a semi idea where this show is heading, and they're doing it good. Like
Yeah.
I know they've skipped over a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of stuff. It's kind of filler stuff because when you're making comics, you're gonna have that filler stuff in the comics. Like the overarching arc, they're doing great, and I really appreciate this last season. The last episode was insane.
That's a really good talking point because a lot of Invincible fans are very similar to The Boys fans in the sense that not only were they complaining about the ending, but I think a lot of them just want to see big fights. So a lot of people were taking the seventh episode of Invincible, which is when they're fighting Thrag in space, and they're like, "Well, why is episode 8 not this?" People wanted there to be a big conclusion battle, but I thought that it was excellently done, just having the build up where Mark is having PTSD. I don't think we've seen a character have
So
PTSD
bad.
like that. It was
No,
really well executed. The
that
closest
was
thing.
Punisher,
That's what I was
Punisher
about to
level.
say. I was about to say one last kill. That's about the closest thing. But Mark is straight up just having panic attacks. And I thought it was so because it's building up the suspense. And then at the end of the episode, he's there. That's when you sent those emojis, like the gas face emojis to me, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
when he was actually there. And it turns out that Mark has to make that choice. He has to be like, oh, I can't beat you. So I'm going to have to let you do it. There's nothing that I can do. I thought it was
yeah, and
really well done.
I didn't read the comics. I know you said you read some of them, but that was kind of the same way it went in the comics too, wasn't it? Like there
Yeah.
wasn't a big fight scene when he first got to Earth.
Yeah, it was the exact same. They adapted it pretty much one
Okay.
for one.
I was
Even
gonna,
even in when he's killing Debbie, it's like the exact same panel in Mark's head. Same thing.
yeah, I was gonna say because I believe in the comics, like he actually fell in love with Earth, didn't he? Like he fell in love with the Earth people.
Uh, so all the Viltrumites do. Spoiler alert for the future.
Okay.
But
Uh, sorry.
they become like Nolan, in the sense that Nolan develops feelings that Viltrumites never have had when he goes to Earth,
Yeah.
and he doesn't feel the same way about Oliver's mother. That's the exact point that he's trying to fill that void from Earth. All of the Viltrumites start to develop feelings, except for Anissa because she's a
Okay.
fucking rapist. But you know, and I don't think they're gonna skip that scene. I think people were under
I,
the impression that they weren't gonna show it. I think that's gonna be it's gonna be cut.
I
Obviously, they won't show the nudity, but
that they never have in the show.
yeah,
They've been very good about not doing that. But yeah, you can't have that scene for Invincible. Like you can't get rid of that scene. That is such an integral part of his character. It's
yeah,
unfortunate to say that, but there really is an integral part for his character
yeah.
and things that happen in the future that I will try not to spoil since I know what happens.
Yeah, I think that's very important that they do show. There was a lot of controversy as to whether that would be allowed. I think that at this point, Amazon has shown that they are willing to let Kirkman do his thing. They've allowed him to take the liberties to put the Hell episode in or to show crazy gore and all sorts of different things. That will be included. I just don't see a world where they remove it from that character arc.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if it's just like a quick like cut to it, cut away, cut back to it, and everything's done. I feel like that's probably the route they're going to take. But they've been a graphic show,
yeah,
like you said. They're not going to show nudity, obviously. That's it's a tough scene to pull off. It's really going to be, especially adapting it to TV. In comics, you can kind of get away with stuff like that. And a TV show where it's one of the more popular Amazon TV shows, it's in the top 10 every time a season comes out.
yeah.
People are going to be watching it.
It's going to get a
I
lot
made
of
the mis
backlash.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't watch the show with my kids anymore. I made that mistake before.
Yeah.
So I won't be watching it with them, but if someone is watching it with their kids, like it's going to be a talking point.
Yeah. I just see it as there's going at a certain point you have to bite the bullet and produce things and knowing you went into this knowing if you're Robert Kirkman that you're planning to adapt that. And the studio,
Yeah.
anybody who was willing to sign on for this adaptation and provide the money for this knew that this was in the source material. So I don't think they're going to shy away from it. Like I said, it was a big talking point for people, especially when the show first came out and comic readers were going on about, well, this is going to happen. I just don't think they're going to avoid it. But I am very excited for them to continue adapting it. Obviously, the Hell episode is the lowest rated of any of the seasons. It's the lowest rated one. Kirkman went on to, it was the Escape Pod, and he was talking about, well, I wrote the highest, or, you know, he did the highest rated episode and the lowest rated episode, and that being the Hell one. I think that, you know, going back to what I was saying earlier, this is sort of the problem where if you have the original creator obviously faithful to the source material, but there were editors and people in place that could block out some of the changes that don't resonate with people, like cutting that out. And then but they
Yeah.
have it in the final. I think the biggest problem was just the placement of where it was in the season. I think you could have
Yeah.
gotten away with it if it was maybe towards the beginning. But again, we talked about ad nauseum the 8 episode format and having any type of filler, especially during one of the most interesting arcs of all the comics, the Viltrumite War. It was bad
Yeah.
timing. That was the only downside that I had really with the entire season. That, and of course, we talk about the animation. But in those big moments, in the most imperative moments to have good animation, that's when they turn it on. That's when they put it in, like, for example, the Conquest second fight, or for the Thrag moments when Thrag crushes the head and zooms off like it's an anime.
Yeah.
That was
Or
cool.
even that one, the first time Invincible like does a full force punch on Thrag,
And
the
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 impact
explosion
frame.
into red. Oh, that was so amazing.
Yeah, it's an impact frame. Yep. Yep, they choose when to turn it on. They definitely wait for those very big moments, and that gets me very excited for the Battle Beast and Thrag thing. I'm very
Ooh.
excited for that.
Love me some Battle Beast,
I
man.
do. I love Battle Beast. And they're doing a Kirkman is doing a spin-off comic right now for Conquest that includes Battle Beast, from what I
Okay.
understand.
Yeah,
It's showing
Kirkman.
them fight, those two.
Okay. Kirkman did say like the reason he did that episode, I'm gonna end quote that because I don't know for sure. I thought I read an article on it. Kirkman had stated like he wants to do like more spin-off stuff, but
Yeah.
he's sort of worried about it as well, just because the story does have a definitive ending. It has the way it goes. That's why he's been careful to do a lot of this like spin-off stuff. So I believe he said he threw that in there as kind of like a feeler because he had that Adam Eve special that
And that did
didn't
very
happen in the
well.
com.
Yeah,
Yeah, I enjoyed it
I
because
did too.
like I told you, Adam Eve's one of my favorite characters on the show. So I believe that was another one where he was trying to see if maybe, hey, he can do a little spin-off for Damien Darkblood. I don't know, but I believe that's why he said he did that because he wants to get a feeler so he can do more spin-off stuff. He wants to do more stuff in the universe. He's just scared to ruin it because he has a definitive ending.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the cool part about having characters that, for instance, you could do something with Thrag's backstory. You could have more to do with Thrag because he's a very interesting character. But doing stuff with Conquest,
Yes.
because he's a fan favorite, I think it's a very smart move to do a Conquest and Battle Beast crossover, which he is doing, because those are two of the most popular characters. People love Conquest. Absolutely love Conquest.
I loved watching Mark kick his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, both of those have been both of the fights have been really
That
good with them. Yeah.
that second fight with Conquest was insane.
The gut ripping out had people shook, man. Like straight
I
up.
was like, I was I was watching the episode like that part. I was like,
Yep.
I'm like, who's gonna get first? Who's gonna get first? Like I was so scared when I believe it's Steven Yeun.
Yeah,
Yan.
Yoon. Yeah, I believe
Okay,
so. Yeah.
Yoon. Okay, I always butcher names. His delivery of "This is the last breath you'll ever breathe" was insane.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't looking at the TV when he said that, and he said that. I dropped everything. I said, "What's going on?"
Yeah. That's and
His
here
delivery.
there's been a lot of criticism, and this is I just want to say this is not how this works. They don't just give you a bunch of money and say spend it how you will. People are thinking that the animation funding is being stripped away because of the voice acting. That's not the case.
No,
It's not how it works. But people believe that, oh, you're paying the money to J.K. Simmons or these big stars, and that's why. They're trying to get,
nothing to do with it.
yeah, who was Kirkman trying to get, who he's really wanted. I forget who he said. Was it it wasn't Bryan Cranston, was it?
No, but I saw this article too, and I'm blanking on the name
I
too.
can't remember. Yeah.
The funny thing about it though, this show has said why their animation isn't as good. They literally said it on the one episode where they're at the Comic-Con thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It is what it is
the
at the end of the
interesting thing
day.
too, for this next upcoming season, they've been working on it for longer. It's been, I think, 2 years that they've been working on this upcoming
Yeah,
season. They started it in the season prior, so hopefully that will alleviate some of the giving people more time to animate it. I
yeah.
wish they would have done it for this season because now we're gonna get friggin'
Oh,
Dinosaurus blowing up Vegas. But instead of the Invincible
I've
War.
yeah, I've seen some of the edits that people have done where they added just like simple shading and like it makes it look a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Does it change the story? No, and
No.
that's what I'm looking for when I watch things. Like I look for the stories. I'm a big story narrative. Even when I play video games, I prefer playing single player story narrative games. That's just me. The animation, if it's bad in some parts, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. That's a hard part of having an animated adaptation, though. There are benefits to it. So, for instance, we talked about live action adaptation last week, and even just going back to talking about The Boys, it's very difficult to pull off a lot of the things. Comics have two different types. Like, there's a medium. There's a I should say, there's a line. You start off in the comics. The easiest way to adapt it the most faithfully is in an animated show
Yeah,
or a video game, because you can get away with some of the ridiculousness or the certain designs of characters or things in ways that you can't with live action adaptation. You just can't. That's
yeah,
why you had to change the way that comic suits look, because seeing people in spandex doesn't always look great on live action camera. It just doesn't. Some of the designs from the comics don't translate over. So you have the benefit with animation, but the problem too is then when you're having an animated series, people judge the animation because that is so imperative to what you're seeing. It's the same way that
yeah,
people attacked, as we said, CGI. CGI, if you have bad CGI in a live action, it's very standoutish. You can tell. And that gets
yeah,
people upset. But that's the drawback. You have the positives that you can make better, closer adaptation to the comics, but as an animated show, if the animation is off, people will be upset about it. And that's everybody's chief complaint about it. When you're looking at reviews or just in general, people are complaining about that animation. And it's not even always to the point where they're attacking the animators. It's people love the story so much that they want it to look as good as the story is, which I understand that. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the story will get interesting. I'm not sure how much that you know about what happens with Nolan and the whole Viltrum stuff, but it's going to get very interesting.
Yeah, I've have yet to look up anything about Nolan, so I'm pretty
Good.
whatever happens with that happens. I've only looked up Oliver because I couldn't stand him anyway, so I'm like, all right, does this guy get worse? And he does.
Yeah, he does. And that's another tell of a good show, or a good story, is when you see an adaptation for it and you don't have any knowledge going into it. It gets people excited to go and research or read the original material. I've seen a lot of reviewers talk about that, where they watched the first season of Invincible and then they didn't want to spoil it for themselves, but they wanted to see where the story went, so they read the comics anyway. And that's the
Yeah,
that's the hallmark of a good show. Like, that's exactly what you want to look for. I'm
I'm
very
very
excited.
big on that.
Yeah,
Like, if I'm watching something that I like, I'll go and look up, I'll see if there's any lore on it. Like, get to the ending, I'll see what do people feel how this ended. If there's sequels, like, I'm big on doing that for things I watch because I like having a huge cohesive story. And I love ever branching, expanding stories as long as they're good.
right.
That's the key part. If they're good, there's been stuff that they've milked it, and it's not good anymore. Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. That's kind of how I felt about the MCU as of late. But
Yeah. So, MCU, you kind of brought this up, so I'm gonna jump on it, go on a little tangent.
yeah,
I love X-Men. You know this. We've talked about it before. I love the X-Men. I wish they'd do a TV show over a movie because the X-Men are set up to be an episodic type of team.
mm, I
They
can
have
see
a
it.
lot of villains. X-Men has so many villains. They could do the villain of the week because they can fill each episode with a different villain. Obviously, I know they're not going to do it. X-Men's going straight to the movies. They're
Yeah,
not going to do a TV show for the X-Men, but I've always been a firm believer that X-Men should be a TV, like a live action TV show. Did you ever watch Gifted?
I did not know.
Okay, it was basically an X-Men TV show. they didn't have the rights to some characters. Polaris was like one of the main characters, and obviously Magneto is her dad. But Gifted was like one of my favorite TV shows. And when the whole Fox getting bought by Disney, everything, the show like just abruptly ended on a cliffhanger, and I was so mad.
Yeah.
But that was a really good show. But yeah, I really believe X-Men should be a TV show in the same way that I'm blanking. We're gonna have to cut this.
The way that I kind of envision it, Titans is that would be a good reference point. It wasn't a great show,
Yes.
but Titans is somewhere that I could see X-Men being.
Yeah.
The way that it is sort of episodic, you have different villains. By the way, the costume design in Titans was fantastic. The costumes were so
Everything
good.
everything about Titans was good except the show.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the best way I could describe that show. Everything about it was good. The acting was pretty good. The costumes were good.
Yep.
Everything sucked about that show.
Yep.
I don't know what it was.
But yeah, when it comes to the X-Men, obviously we don't know what they're going to go into Doomsday. We know this. They'll be in Secret Wars.
Yep.
We'll see what characters that, if all, they bring into the main timeline. We'll see what happens with that. I wouldn't be surprised if they do sort of like Xavier's School spin-off for a show or things like that. But when it comes to the main, like the Omega Mutants or the actual X-Men themselves, I think you're right. They're going to stick with the movies.
Yeah. Well, they said their plan is to do the original X-Men team with this first movie. So obviously we know we're getting Beast, Iceman, Cyclops, Angel, Jean Grey. I'm missing someone out. No, there's five. There's gonna be a very nerdy fan mad at me, and I've just read these comics within the last year. I went back and like read the very first issue of X-Men, so I feel like it was five, but there could be six.
I think it's going to be interesting to see. So much relies on Doomsday, man. So much of the future of the MCU relies on Doomsday and how this works out.
Yeah,
The fact that they're
I'm
already
excited.
filming Secret Wars, though, too. The fact that they.
Very.
I don't know, man. I just don't know.
I trust the Russos. I trust their vision. I don't trust their vision on Ben Parker, but we aren't gonna get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I, I'm very excited for the second season of X-Men 97, speaking about X-Men.
I am too. I've seen a few of the stills. I haven't watched the trailer yet because I kind of want to go in surprise. I'm one of those people. I'm not a huge fan of trailers.
Yeah.
We've kind of had this discussion. I like just a single trailer. Spider-Man's done it perfectly so far. I don't know if we'll get another one before that movie comes out because
It's
we're getting pretty
really
close, aren't
close.
we?
Yeah, it's like a
Like next
month.
month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's coming up very very quickly. Which that's very unusual for Sony. Sony normally is spilling the whole kettle of tea is being poured out anytime that they release a trailer for something.
Yeah.
So
So it's gonna be interesting. Hey guys, we may do a review after the movie. Who knows?
I'll definitely be talking about it, whether it's good or bad. I'll be
Oh,
talking
we
about
will.
it.
We're definitely gonna talk. I could be raging about Jean Grey for about an hour or two. Who knows? We'll find out.
It would be so funny. I know that we talked about it last episode, but I doubt it, but it would be so funny. Because it'd piss you
I
off.
just
It'd be great.
I just seen something. I don't think it was real, but it said Sadie Sink like signed a 5 movie deal, which is very common for them to do anyway. So I don't know why they're putting it out there, but I think they're just trying to trigger people like, aha,
Yeah.
they're wasting such a good casting.
Do we think Caleb it's Caleb, right, from Stranger Things, the black actor is going to be
Oh,
Miles?
McLaughlin?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Really?
Such a good casting. Yes.
I'm just
Oh, I hope so.
a lot of people are concerned because he's not Hispanic or part Hispanic. That's a big part. But
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I understand that. We do so much race changing and stuff now anyways.
But that's a part of his
But it is
character, though.
it is integral to his character. I get it.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't believe he's going to be casted as Miles though, because Miles is he. We haven't seen an older version of Miles in the comics yet, besides like alternate universes, have we?
I
It's
don't think
always just been
so.
like teenager. Because like Spider-Man, we've seen him as a teenager, and we've also seen him as an adult. We've gotten both that. We haven't got that with Miles yet, so they're definitely going to want to go with a younger actor. And at this point, McLaughlin's around our age, isn't he?
He's a couple years younger because we were in high school when Stranger Things came out.
I know, but he was older than the rest of the cast too, I believe, though.
I don't think he was much older. He was a tiny kid, man. When he was in that show in the
Yeah.
first season when we were in high school. I think it was sophomore year. No, it was junior year because I was in marching band. It was junior year when Stranger Things came out, like in the summer
I
prior.
thought, I thought we were in middle school.
No, no, we were at marching band and the directors were talking about it. We were talking about the show
I
that had
wasn't,
just came
I
out.
wasn't in marching band,
I know.
Steven.
I'm just saying in the timeline reference that I know exactly when it came out because I was there marching on the blacktop, and they were talking
What
about Stranger
timeline are
Things.
we in?
Yeah, right. Which Earth are we on? I don't know. 616, 10, 9, 55, or whatever the Deadpool one is.
616119 or whatever.
Yeah. And so that begs the question too. When do you think that we're going to actually see a live action Miles Morales? What timeline do we think for that?
They've already said it's not going to be until after the next animated
The
uh
movie?
Spider-Man movie comes out. They've
Okay.
already said no, just because with how great the movie's done, they don't want to introduce him to the MCU, which is unfortunate because I believe I read an article saying Feige really wanted to introduce Miles as soon as he could.
Yeah.
And this could also, if they wanted to do it during Secret Wars, I don't know if they can do it now because I don't know when does the next Spider-Verse movie come out?
It's
It's
within.
next,
Yeah, it's the next year, right? Or is it still
and so
this year?
does,
Did they push it back again? I can't remember.
I think it's 2027 now, but if that comes out in 2027 and Secret Wars comes out in 2027, it's not going to be able to be done. And that's the best time to do it. And that's what worries me. Unless they establish, well, I mean, we've seen the Prowler in one of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, it was in
So, I mean,
the
they
first
could,
one.
yeah, it was a little reference. Donald Glover would have been so good.
Yeah, it is 2027. That's when it's set now for June of next year. So just about a year away for that final movie.
Okay. I was, but I also worry too, because, we've gotten these animated movies and it's going to be one of those things where they're going to want to market off them. The MCU loves to market and they're going to throw them in. They got to get that casting right. Like you said, I would like Caleb, but it's important that you do get, you know, is he Spanish? And I don't know what he's mixed with. I know he's black, but I don't know what he's mixed with.
Miles Spanish.
I
No,
don't.
not the translation of Miles is in the friggin'
We do research, guys.
it's Puerto Rican. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Puerto Rican. Okay. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say something wrong and offend people
That's why I
because I
wanted to
do
look
care
it
about
up.
that
Yeah.
character.
It is really
But yeah, it is.
interesting. He's one of the few characters that like started off almost as a race swap character, but they've done such a good job of making him his own, and he's blown up
Yeah,
since the first Spider Verse
he
movie.
has.
But he's huge. He's a huge character.
Well, I know I believe he played a very integral part. I don't remember what the comic line was, but it was when Captain America was actually a sleeper Hydra agent.
Hmm.
That whole storyline, I believe he played a huge part in that because I believe he was supposed to be the one that like killed Captain America or something like that. So he was huge in that storyline as well. And I know that was kind of peak popularity. I mean, he's still kind of in his peak popularity just
Yeah.
because of the Spider-Man games,
Yeah.
master for storytelling. Um, I don't read much comics because Marvel's kind of in that spiral. They ended the Krakoa era for the X-Men. Most of their storylines haven't been good. They're trying to do this spin-off to complete with the Absolute. DC run going on right now.
DC is cooking, man. I'm
They
just
they are.
they're pouring a lot
We're
into it.
I'm worried we're gonna get to the point where that absolute line is gonna be so good that people are gonna want to be seeing that over the main DC. That's how good it's been.
See, the problem with DC, they didn't have there wasn't a lot of success with New 52. A lot of people hated New 52. They hadn't had a lot of success with their comics in general for a long time.
Yeah,
And so we're at this point now where these stories are completely they're still faithful in a lot of ways to the characters, but so many things are changed. They're almost new characters, especially Bruce, that his mother is alive and that he's friends with all of his rogues that got turned because of Bane and the Joker and things like that. But
yeah,
I I agree with you. It's going to be very interesting to see where they go. I think that James Gunn will still stick more faithful to the original comics and the regular characters for quite some time.
yeah,
Obviously, we're seeing Supergirl and Lobo coming up, but the way that he did Superman, I anticipate Batman will be similar to the animated Justice League one whenever they get to introducing him in the
yeah.
DCU.
Like I said, it'll be down the line, but like that really worries me that people are gonna want that over the main DC. We'll see though.
See, but this is also the nice thing of having James Gunn say what he said about how he wants the directors to create their own movies and they can be these elseworld stories, such as The Batman or Penguin. These are not a part of the DCU. Doing things
Yeah,
like Creature Commandos, which is a part of the DCU, but just having separate things. You can do separate projects that aren't attached to it, and he's stated that that's the case. So I think it'll be
yeah,
interesting. I am perfectly content with you having different individualized stories with different directors that aren't attached. I've made that point very, very clear. Just to be able to
yeah,
explore other things and to give us more awesome comic related adaptations. This is the problem with the MCU that I've said you can't have these spin offs because everything is attached. You can't have a spin-off and not explain what's going on because people get pissed off like Daredevil Born Again season 2. Doesn't make any sense why there's no other interference from other superheroes. Where is
yeah.
Hawkeye? where
Who?
where
No,
Kate
well,
Bishop?
no,
Where's Kate Bishop?
we can't use that. She was with Hawkeye in the last episode of the show because I actually watched it. They went to his house that he retired to.
Yeah,
But
but
we also seen Kate Bishop at the end of the Marvels. Uh, Miss Marvel was trying to recruit her for the Young Avengers. That's never going to get made because they're just going to be the Avengers at that point when the movie does get made.
yep. You remember when people before they had announced Doomsday and things like that, they were talking about how Spider-Man is going to lead the Avengers, which is never going to happen with Sony. It's just
No,
never going to happen. But that was
never.
such a big thing is
It's ne
Tom Holland is going to lead the Avengers.
it's never even going to happen in the comics.
Yeah.
I love Spider-Man, but he's never going to lead a team.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to DC and the Absolute run, I would not be shocked if people do want adaptations of that because the characters are so cool. The
Oh
stories
yeah,
have been so good.
they've done it perfectly. Like you can reimagine, like they show that you can still reimagine these characters. And,
Yes.
you know, like I said, with this Marvel Midnight, that's their new thing they're coming out with. I read the like synopsis of what it's supposed to be. I'm like, I why? Why are you doing this? Like we know you're trying to compete, which I mean the absolute line was meant to compete with Marvel. They're like reviving the Ultimate comics, which it started off pretty good. I was reading that run for a little bit.
Hmm.
A lot of people said it got stale for the Spider-Man side of things. It turned into a story for the Green Goblin essentially. But I started off reading those and I enjoyed it. And I guess that was the DC's answer to that was the absolute. And clearly they're blowing the Ultimate storyline out of the
Oh my
water.
god, yeah.
And and then Marvel's like, let's do Marvel Midnight and make dark reimaginations of all these characters. I'm like, when you're doing it in that sense, just to like try and compete with something, that's when people are they're gonna see that. I see that. everyone else was saying it in the comment section. They're like, they're just trying to compete with this. If you want to do it on your own time. Don't do it just to be competition, because that's when your stories aren't good. When you're doing something just to rival something, you miss aspects of making a good story.
You want a good example of that? It's
Yes, I think I know where you're heading.
the exact inverse of the movies of the MCU and the Zack Snyder verse. It's the exact inverse of that with DC and Marvel because the MCU was so successful and they tried to rush to create a competition with the Justice League in the movies that fell to pieces. It's the same thing that's going to happen in the comics. Absolute Universe is continuing to get more and more characters. They're doing a spin-off line for Catwoman. They have Green Arrow now, and Green Arrow looks sick. They're doing Solomon Grundy. That was in the picture that I sent to you. That was him with the
Yeah,
arrows in him. It looks great. It all looks great. But
yeah.
it's the exact thing that's happening. It's just inverse. So
Yep.
we'll see how
And
they handle it.
it always happened. It's always happened because DC and Marvel have been your powerhouse comics for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. There's gonna be, you know, characters that are very similar to each other. It happens all the time. That's fine. You can do that. Make it its own thing. Don't do it just to be a direct pair. I mean, Deadpool is a. I'm not going to get
Same
into that
author
because
though. Same author or
I was
creator
going to
though.
say Rob Liefeld might get mad at us and put a ban on our podcast or something.
No, I mean he's talked about it, but obviously, yeah, he was the exact same character. However, he did change the character. Deadpool is not the same
Yeah.
type of character. He looks the same as Slade. That's why,
Yes,
but
obviously.
and they're mercenaries. But that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. Like, obviously, you can find a character and you can find even something outside of DC where they probably have a direct comparison to. That's what it is for stories like that.
The
It's superheroes
Boys,
versus villains.
Omni
Yeah,
Man, and
it's
Invincible.
Omni-Man. Yeah, it's superhero stories. You're gonna have those characters. It's fine. Just
Yeah,
make it its own thing.
and
That's why Invincible did so well. Like the comics were, I know they were very popular because people would talk to me about them. I never read them because I wasn't buying comic books at that time.
yeah,
They made it its own thing.
yep. And that's the integral part is having a good story. You can do these spin-offs. The problem is even within those in the communities for like, in Marvel, you have really good Spider-Man comics and then you have superior Spider-Man. And obviously it's Doc Ock and the character people friggin' hated superior Spider-Man. That's just the truth. A lot of people do not like
Yeah.
that character and that arc. It's the same thing. You can because when you're trying to take a character, and again, we talk about Miles Morales. Miles Morales is Spider-Man. He's a you could have called him a token character. You could have, but he's so original now and the story is written so well that a lot of people like him more than they like Peter Parker right now. That's just the truth of the character. He's so popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, just and like you said, Invincible, it's the same thing. You can take a basis. That's the thing. Kirkman started it off in speaking of like the first episode of the first season. You started off, you think it's a kiddie show. If you haven't read the comics, you think it's just a copycat of Justice League the animated series. That's what you think. And then he murders everybody. Omni-Man kills all of the Guardians. It's just like boom. And then
Yeah.
you have a whole in-depth arc for the character. And obviously Viltrum is Krypton. But it's different than Krypton. It has its own things that happen. There's the Scourge virus. There's all these different elements that you
Yeah.
create. And it just creates for a great story. So,
Yeah. And comics are at their best when they build their own lore. And
yes.
that's what Absolute's doing right now. That's why it's building its own lore. It's not trying to compete with anything else. It's trying to be its own thing. Yes, it's going to draw inspirations off of other things. We're at the point 95% of things have already been done.
Yeah.
It's how you do it to make it your own. This world's been around for years now. I'll say comic books have been around for what, over 100 years now?
Well, yeah. Well, the 20s and 30s. Yeah. Just about.
Yeah, comics have been around for about 100 years now. Like stories get done and done. Movies have been around for even longer. We're probably going since like 400 or 500 years. We've had movies for like that long. We'll just
We
say,
haven't
give or
had it
take.
for 500 years. What will you have in
Listen, I'm
5,000 years? Movies.
you're I'm exaggerating for a point, but you get what I'm saying. Like all
Yeah.
this stuff has been done. It's been done before. Make it your own. If
Yes.
you can make it your own, people are gonna appreciate it. Time travel movies. We still have good time travel movies that come out because people have made it their own.
Yep.
If everyone just remade Back to the Future, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah. Yeah, that with that being in DC in the absolute, I think it did, obviously, as you said, it started off as they wanted to do some sort of rival competition. And it's always going to be like that with DC and Marvel. They're
Yeah,
always going to be going back and forth, whether it's movies, animated shows, comics, doesn't make a difference. They'll always be going back and forth. However, I think this is an example of what I believe the DCU can be and the Elseworlds can be with James Gunn at the helm. I believe that you can have something that starts off as a spin-off or a separate line of comics from the original main comics, right? And people can
yeah,
enjoy those and you can make adaptations of that. You can do things based in that universe. Just because, unlike Marvel, it doesn't all have to be interconnected, which is why the
yeah.
Batman 2, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic. I have no doubts that I'm going to love the Batman 2 when it comes out. Doesn't have any connection to the DCU, even though a lot of people want Pattinson to be the Batman for that universe. But you can do these things outside. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about Pattinson being in the DCU?
I want Jensen Ackles.
Oh, really?
I want Jensen Ackles or Alan Rickman to be Batman.
I just don't think
That is
Alan
my
Rickman
only
has
true.
the chops. I don't think he has the chops to be
I
Batman.
don't think he does either. Jensen Ackles has done so much with Batman. He's voiced Red Hood before. He's voiced Batman before.
Yeah, he has.
Please, please. He would be like the most like how Bruce Wayne should look in a movie because Jensen Ackles, come on, he's a good looking guy.
Like Chuck said, that's a pretty man.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good looking guy. He has the grittiness to be Batman as well. We haven't got that a lot with Batman. You either have someone that has that Playboy look, George Clooney, we don't care about you. Anywho, and then we have the people that have been good Batmans. We haven't really had a good balance yet, and I think Jensen Ackles could pull that off.
I think you're right. And this is the difficulty, and this happens for Spider Man too. We talk about, you have a good Peter Parker and a good Spider Man. You talk about you have a good Bruce Wayne, you have a good Batman. And we haven't necessarily gotten a mix of both. And part of that too, I think Pattinson has the ability to do that. They just didn't do that in his movie. They didn't
Yeah,
really have any of Bruce Wayne, and the Bruce Wayne that they created was not the playboy. He was a recluse. He was hidden away. He
yeah,
didn't want anything to do with anybody. But I believe that they're going to lean more into that in the second movie because of how he has changed in the arc of his character over the first movie.
yeah.
I believe that they'll probably lean more into it
Okay.
then. But you are right. In terms of the adaptations, typically I think the closest that you really get is Christian Bale. At least he has some suave to him, but he's not the grittiest
Yeah.
Batman. It's the
No.
grittiest shot Batman. It
Where
has
are
the
you?
dark. Yeah, his voice was kind of rough. It got memed to crap, but that it is very interesting. I don't know. And the whole thing with the brave and the bold that James Gunn has been talking about, that's what they're leaning into. I think Jensen Ackles is probably the age that they want to go with because he's going to have his Robin
Yeah.
already. Or
Yeah.
he's going to be
And
Dick,
another,
right? I think he's going to be Dick.
I think you're a dick. Anywho, um, I was reading something about this Batman today, and they're like all the fans are saying how they don't want the black Batman costume. They want the blue and the gray and the
Yeah, I've
yellow
been seeing
bat.
a lot of that.
Jensen Ackles could pull that off too, because we know he can do the comedy chops, like a more comedy style Batman. Like Batman's comedy style, like we haven't seen it a lot outside of like cartoon shows. But
Yeah.
like I said, Jensen Ackles can pull that off too. And that's my dream casting for Batman. It really is. People might start getting Jensen Ackles fatigue after that though.
I think it just depends, though. I don't believe that they would lead too into the comedy. Here's the thing that concerns me. If you have a DCU Batman, you already have characters that are completely different in tone. If you introduce a Flash, you're going to have a quippy guy. If you have Superman, which you
Yeah.
already do, you have that bright, symbol of hope. The reason that I don't think they'll lean into the DC or like the animated Batman series. They're not going to lead into, I believe, that specific where he has the comedy. I guess more the Justice League where he has his kind of funny
Yeah.
moments. I don't think they'll lean into that. I think they'll still stick with a little gritty. I don't know how they pull the blue off in live action. That's my concern. It looks good in animation and comics, but it looks kind of in live action.
Here's how I feel. People said for years they didn't know how Wolverine was going to look in an actual yellow costume on screen, and it was glorious.
Except for the
That's how I
CGI out of the
feel.
bus where he looked like a
Stop
PlayStation
it.
character.
Stop it.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
I just
But
rewatched that too.
yeah, so I think they could do it, and I don't, if they're doing a Robin story, I will. I know they have a lot more darker, grittier Robin stories now, but when we first had Robin, Batman wasn't as dark and gritty outside
No.
of Jason Todd getting killed by the Joker. Like it was more lighthearted and kind of campy. So, and the fact that they chose Brave and the Bold, I personally, I go to the Brave and Bold TV series, where it's more of like a comedy style Batman. That's more of what I think of when I hear that. And a lot of people going in watching this movie are kind of be because it's going to be kind of aimed at our age group at this point
Yeah.
because we're getting old now.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe some people are going to get that interpretation too. So maybe that's just the issue. I think we had this conversation as well. I don't think there's any way that they haven't actually casted Batman yet. I think James Gunn knows who's going to be Batman at this point.
I don't think it's permanent because they were still working on the script not too long ago. I think he probably
That's just,
has the idea of who he wants already.
isn't Brave and the Bold a 2028 release?
Well, it won't be. It'll get pushed back. It definitely will
Yeah,
get
I was gonna
pushed
say
back. But
that's why I'm just like, there's no way they haven't actually casted. But maybe that's what's the holdup with the casting is they're trying to find someone that can fit all these different roles where they can be gritty but have that, campy little humor that Batman has. And they need someone that can be that playboy as well.
I think if you are leaning in, just thinking of it being Jensen Ackles or whatever, going into what he's done for the animated character, realistically, if I'm James Gunn, I know this might be controversial. I would have Damian Wayne be your Robin and have Nightwing be an established character in that universe for the Bat family. Considering the age of Jensen Ackles, the place in
Yeah,
story wise that you have, and the fact that he is less campy of a Robin, he is a much more serious Robin that you can still have some jokes and banter with the same way you do in the animated movies. I believe
yeah,
he would be a great decision to move in that direction.
yeah.
And
But like
people
you
love
said,
Nightwing.
and because it's not going to be Damien, it's going to be Dick,
Mm-hmm.
Nightwing. We haven't got Nightwing in a movie yet. Why has this not happened?
That's very true. That is very true. But you see where I'm going with that logic, though.
Yeah,
That
I definitely get what you're saying. That's why I think they're going more kind of campy with this one because James Gunn has said he wants to do something with Batman that hasn't been done yet. Outside of like, you could argue that, ooh, what's his name? Hmm, Adam,
Adam
not
West.
Adam West.
Well, that
No, Wheaton. Wheaton. What's his first name?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but we like his Batman had a little bit of that campiness to it. We haven't really had that in a Batman movie. It's always been like what we had in the early 90s, and then we went straight to Christian Bale as more of a grittier CEO kind of Batman, and then we went straight dark with I don't like Batfleck. We've talked about this. I'm not a huge fan of Ben Affleck as Batman. I was not a fan.
I liked him. I didn't like the way they wrote his character in the movies,
Yeah.
but he looked really good in that suit.
I was, I was gonna say he definitely could have had the good Bruce Wayne, good Batman kind of vibes to him because he does kind of he bulked up for that movie. He had
He
that,
was big.
yeah. So I mean, they could have been done with that, but it wasn't. It was straight dark. They went straight dark. That's Zack Snyder makes beautiful looking movies. He doesn't write great scripts.
Yep. Well, the problem with him, I believe I said this in the last podcast, is that in terms of the way that he was doing superhero, I think he just tried to take what he did in the Watchmen and transfer it over. Obviously, he did that for Superman. That was the style that he was going for with those characters. He
What
transferred the
blew
exact same thing that he did, but that wasn't Superman. It's not.
Yeah, what blows my mind though was Watchmen was so trash because of him too, and the way he wrote some of the stuff.
I liked Watchmen. I
Like
can't. I
I
enjoyed
I love
Watchmen.
I loved Watchmen
Yeah.
as well, but a lot of people did not because of the direction he chose to go with the characters. The movie was beautiful.
I
Zack
enjoyed it.
Snyder makes beautiful movies. He really does. He just does not write well.
Yeah. Uh, the best scene that we got with Ben Affleck as Batman was actually in or not the Suicide Squad, but the first Suicide Squad movie, where he's trying to. There's two things. I forget if the second one is it the. It might be the second one, the Suicide Squad, when he's riding around on Joker's car. That's a really good scene with his
Oh yeah.
Batman. But the other one is Deadshot with his daughter. That was a perfect scene. That was one of the very few good things that they did. Was when he comes down, he doesn't beat up Deadshot or anything in front of his little girl. He just because Deadshot's about to shoot him, and she goes and like jumps in front, like "Don't shoot him" type
Yeah.
of deal. And Batman is just aura farming. But it was one of the better scenes that you saw with Batfleck's character.
Yeah.
But,
And the one unfortunate thing is Deathstroke, he looked so good.
oh,
He
Joe
looked
Manganiello.
so good. What a waste. What a
I
waste.
agree. I definitely agree. I was as much as I did not like Batman versus Superman. Could you imagine Joe Manganiello with like an actual Titans based thing? That would be
A
so
solo
cool.
a solo Batman movie with Deathstroke as your main villain. That's what they were going for. I
Yep,
just know.
they
And we
were.
didn't get it. And
It
it's
it would have been Ben Affleck's Batman with Deathstroke Joe Manganiello. That would have been really
He
good.
looked so good as Deathstroke. That's one of the few things I am disappointed that we never actually got out of those movies.
Yeah.
Since we're on the DC topic, let's talk about how we've never had a good iteration of Flash anywhere.
The closest that you can really get, well, the animated does a well job, but
Animated,
like,
I'm not including animated. I'm talking live action.
yeah, the thing people might get upset at me for this. I actually didn't mind the the Snyderverse Flash movie. I didn't mind the Flashpoint thing that they had going on. I just don't like Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller is a psychopath, and I don't like Ezra Miller.
Yeah,
But
I don't think the story was good. First off, he never looked like the Flash. When he got
no,
cast as the Flash, I'm "The- like, what is this? Like, that's not the Flash." Um, I just, it's hard. Flash is one of those characters. He's such a. We talked about our Mount Rushmore of superhero characters, and we talked about Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Clearly, you're three. And I said one of my four. I couldn't decide, but I put like the Flash on there. Like he
yeah,
is one of those characters that people just know, and like he's a cool character. Batman is like talked about how much he's liked the Flash before, and he don't like anyone. And he's like, man, if I had a good childhood, I probably would have turned out like him.
he's the
So it's stuff
superhero
like
that
that.
Batman looks to as like he always respects him in every iteration too. He's
Yeah,
always like that. Yeah,
yeah. So the Flash is such a cool character. Like it's one of the few DC characters that I truly enjoy. I'm not. We've talked before. I'm not a huge DC fan. Like I love Batman. I don't like Superman. I think it's just the way it's been written for a long time since I've been a comic fan.
yeah.
I've never been a huge fan, but I love the Flash. Like the Flash is such a good character, and the fact that we haven't gotten him right in a live action, like. we've talked about the Flash TV show. I'm a huge Grant Gustin fan.
He
He
doesn't
wasn't the
look the character.
Flash.
He's not the Flash. He doesn't look the character, and his acting. His acting is not great. He had a couple good scenes. There's a couple good scenes, very good scenes, like his dad getting killed by Zoom, things like that, where he has really good acting. But for most of the show, it's just. But also, the show's writing was abysmal, as was every CW show,
Yeah.
except for the first season, which was pretty good.
Yeah. And he stated before, like, he could definitely feel like he had, I think like 2 or 3 seasons before it ended, I believe he had stated that he had went to the, you know, showrunners or
Showrunners,
whatever
yeah.
they are. Yeah. He went to the showrunners and just was talking to them about stuff like that. Cause I don't think he enjoyed acting on that show for quite a few seasons.
Yeah.
And I believe you could really tell when it started to show, which is unfortunate because I like Grant Gustin and The Flash started off amazing.
Yeah.
Like the first season was really good, and it just writing CW. Good thing they don't write TV shows no more.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Arrowverse started off with obviously Arrow, and they wanted to make Batman. We had talked about this before. They wanted to make Batman. They couldn't get the rights for Batman. They never really did get the rights for Batman to use in a TV show.
Yeah,
But they wanted that, so they did that with Green Arrow's character, which was not Ollie. That's not who that character is. And
yeah,
so Stephen Amell was, in my opinion, a terrible Oliver Queen casting. He couldn't play the character. He played Batman. He tried to play Batman. That was that whole show. But the story was decent enough in those first couple of seasons, and we really hadn't gotten a live action DC type of show like that before. So that
yeah,
kind of carried it until you get to Ra's al Ghul, and then it's just. But you got to think, you had Deathstroke and Ra's al Ghul in a Green Arrow television show. The
yeah,
CW was always, and then after that, it just fell off a cliff with everything. The Flash was in the same boat. The first season, you start off with Reverse Flash. It's this sort of mystery thing at first. You figure out who the Reverse Flash actually is. It's Harrison Wells in the wheelchair. He's from the future. Makes sense, right? And he's a truly, genuinely generational evil villain. That's always what
yeah.
Reverse Flash has been. But Grant Gustin was never going to be. He never looked the part. He
Yeah.
was never written to be the Flash that we know. He was written to be the power of friendship, and Iris West is the worst character in all of DC television. She is the worst. It's not the actress's fault, it is the story's fault for what they did to her.
Yeah, I was gonna say she started off great in that show too, and then they just yeah. But that's one thing too. I like Stephen Amell. The reason I think another thing was he had the physicality to do all the stuff that the show demanded,
Yeah.
and I feel like they just started adding more and more for him because he got in really good shape and he actually trained to like shoot bows and stuff. So like he had the
Yeah.
physicality to do that. And that's where I think the opposite could be said with Grant Gustin. I know he works out and everything, but he just never had that like when you looked at him, he didn't have that physicality that you like. I know Flash isn't looked at as a physical character, but every iteration of him you see basically in like a TV an animated show or a comic, he's a bigger guy.
Yeah.
Outside, when Wally West is Flash, he's smaller, but Barry Allen's a bigger guy.
Yeah. And this is the difficult part. So when you're doing adaptations, obviously you take into account the way that the actors look, but there are certain actors that you can kind of ignore it with. For instance, we can just say Charlie Cox. He doesn't look
Yeah.
like Daredevil, but he acts so well in the show that people just it doesn't matter. People don't really care.
Oh, yeah, because isn't Daredevil like a redhead?
Yes, he's a redhead,
Yeah, I was
straight
gonna
up
say he's a
redhead.
redhead. And yeah, they changed that obviously. I will say this about Charlie Cox though. He is definitely put into work to beef up to look more like Daredevil.
Yeah,
He's put in a lot of work, and I respect that.
yeah.
Also, by the way, I'm shooting my shot, James Gunn. You need a green arrow.
I could have
And
done it. I just shaved, man. Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing is you can get away with having characters that don't look exactly the same. The problem with the
oh
Flash
yeah,
adaptations that we've had is number one was written on the CW. Number two, the second one
yeah.
was Ezra Miller, and Ezra Miller was in a movie that was, even though I enjoyed a lot of it, and a lot of people didn't, but the writing wasn't good, and he really,
Yeah.
I thought that he was the closest to being. He was more like a Kid Flash than he was a Barry
Yeah,
Allen.
he felt Wally West-esque.
Yeah, and that being a Flashpoint storyline didn't really make sense for that type of character. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it shouldn't be hard to make a
No.
Flash. The biggest thing we haven't seen, we have seen super speed. The one thing Eternals got right was super speed. That was the
Yes.
one thing that they did very well. And I obviously didn't watch the movie, but just seeing the action sequences, that's one of the few things. But we haven't gotten that with the Flash at all.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller's running in that movie was that was something else. And it was a stylistic decision too, because it's like he's swimming through the air. That was what they were
Hmm.
trying to go for, but it just didn't look right.
Yeah. I I I still vividly remember like when they casted him as the Flash, and I'm like, that's not the Flash. Like that looks nothing like the Flash. What are you guys doing? They kind of did the same thing. Like they picked a smaller guy to play the Flash, and I'm like, I don't know if people know what the Flash looks like that are, casting at this point, because every like I don't remember what John Wesley's ship looked like when that Flash TV show was going, if he was a bigger guy, but he also had like the muscle suit and everything because
Yeah.
it was the 90s. And but why do they always cast for live action? Why do they always cast smaller guys to play the Flash? Or they just not view him as a bigger guy because he has super speed?
Well, to be fair, they do the same thing with Batman. We haven't. Ben Affleck was the biggest Batman that we had.
Yes,
All the
that
other
is
ones are
true.
scrawny in
Yeah.
comparison. I'm not
I,
saying that they're all like because they work out, but
yeah. That's part of the reason, like, I like the idea of a physical picture of Alan Rickman as Batman,
I
because he
agree.
has like what Batman would look like in the comics. Jensen Ackles doesn't have that build, but he'd be one of the bigger Batmans we've had. We've
Yeah,
seen what the weight he put on for Homelander. I'm sure if he got cast as Batman, he'd probably put on a lot more weight.
yeah. Um, what do we think? I had seen a picture not too long ago for Reverse Flash. Did I send it to you of the two that they
Yeah, so it was what
Anthony
Anthony
Starr and then
Starr
Wilson Bethel?
and
Wilson
yes.
Bethel looked really good in that suit. I think he would do a fantastic job as Reverse Flash too. I think he has the acting capability to do it.
Oh yeah. I love seeing these behind the scene things too, of like they're telling us people that like almost got the roles. And we're talking about this. Like Wilson Bethel almost was Captain America, and we once again had a conversation. I think it would just be so cool to have that meta humor that if him and Captain America ever face off, he like catches the shield and he holds it for a second. And it's just like one of those subtle nods. I love meta humor like that they have in movies because they do it sometimes. And I just think that'd be a cool thing to add. Now, is that ever going to happen? Probably not. But it's crazy that he was almost our Captain America. Because like seeing him as Bullseye now, like I can't see him playing Captain America. But look at the same thing. When Chris Evans got casted as Captain America,
Oh, people were like,
oh
"What?"
my, the outrage.
Yeah.
Because one, he's a shorter guy. He was the Human Torch. He didn't have a big build, and then he became Captain America. That's like our face of Captain America now. It's one of the true redemption stories we've seen in terms of like superheroes. Ryan Reynolds got his as Deadpool, but he's always just been Deadpool. So
Yeah, he's well, and that's the thing too with Chris Evans is he was much more into comedic type of movies and roles. He wasn't seen as such a
yeah,
serious character, which Captain America is very much a serious character in all of his movies. He really
yeah,
is. So, but you could say the same thing about Heath Ledger when they cast him as the Joker,
yes,
and he had the best performance that we've gotten. So it just
yeah.
depends,
Stop
and
typecasting.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, and we're talking about like Alan Richmond as Batman. That's why I say it with him. I just don't think he has those chops, but I could be wrong because Chris Evans is a prime example of that, of the type of shows that you. But we have seen that he can play Reacher, and that's a great
Yeah,
Batman, but it ain't gonna be a great Bruce Wayne.
no,
And I haven't seen him in a role like that. At least I haven't. But your camera just froze, by the way.
yeah, I see that.
Huh? Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to wrap it up here?
I, mhm. let me get my camera on for this. Yeah, I think that's a good wrapping point because we'll talk about something after we cut this off.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. That was a good second episode. Definitely wanted to talk about the boys in the finale.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so other than that, thanks everybody for watching. Second episode of this podcast. I'll probably make us look like Invincible characters in the thumbnail, so that'll be fun.
Better animation in the show.
Yeah, I got you on that. All right. See you guys.
See ya.